Okay, so this is the first lesson in trigonometry. We're going to start by introducing the coordinate trigonometry. So this starts by dealing with a coordinate plane. And we're looking at angles on this coordinate plane. So when we look, if we have an angle, we always start from our x-axis, and this is the initial arm, and then our terminal arm is where the angle finishes. So we'd be looking for angle theta in between there. And this is always about the origin. So we're always rotating around the origin here. And we would call this in standard position. We rotate in counterclockwise. So we're going to look here at this warm-up. So on the coordinate grid, we're going to label the 4 quadrants. So I would label this quadrant 1, 2, 3, and 4. This is the order you have to go in. You go counterclockwise, and we start in quadrant 1 there. So to get each of our angles here, we're going to start, and if we're starting, we always start from this x-axis. That means that we're starting at 0 degrees. Our y-axis up here will be 90 degrees. We add another 90, we get to 180, down to 270, and then back around to 360 degrees. Okay. So we have quadrants 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then the angles as we go around. So those are the angles exactly on our axes, but we can have any angle in between. So I could have an angle in here of 45, I could have an angle in here of 100 degrees, and we will call those angles as we work with them our reference angles. So if I look here at example 1, it says to sketch an angle of 60 degrees. So I know that I have 0 degrees here and 90 degrees here. So 60 degrees is going to be in quadrant 1. Okay. So that will be my terminal arm. And then the reference angle is, we're always in reference to how far we are from the x-axis. In this case, I'm in quadrant 1, so my reference angle is actually the same as my angle of rotation. It'll also be 60 degrees, will be my reference angle. Okay, whereas if we're looking at 2 here, and we're sketching an angle of rotation of 150, I know that I have 0 degrees here, 90 degrees here, 180, 270, okay, and this would be back to 360. So if I'm looking at 150 degrees, it's going to be in between quadrant, or 90 and 180, so it'll be in quadrant 2. So if this is 150 degrees, that'll be my angle of rotation. Okay. Be the 150. But if it's asking for my reference angle, my reference is how close am I to the x-axis? And if I look here, to get from 150 to 180, that's 30 degrees. So I have a reference angle of 30 degrees here. Okay, so 225, that's larger than the 180 that's here, but less than the 270 that's there. So it'll be in between these two angles. It'll be in quadrant 3. So this will be 225 degrees. My reference angle is how far am I from the x-axis? Always the x, never the y. Okay, so if I want to figure out my reference angle, I'm going to go 225 minus 180, and my reference angle here will be 45 degrees. Okay, and then the last one, 310 is going to be in quadrant 4. Okay, because I know it's between 270 degrees and 360. To get my reference angle, I'm going to take the 360 minus the 310. So I have a reference angle of 50 degrees. okay? Reference is always in reference to the x-axis, whichever one I'm closer to, right? Like I wouldn't be referencing the x-axis over here. That doesn't really make any sense. Number 5 says a rotation angle in standard position has a reference angle of 32 degrees. What are the 4 possible angles? Well, if I'm just given the 32 degrees, that means I could be in quadrant 1, because this is saying that I have a reference angle of 32 degrees. And then if I'm in quadrant 1, that also means that my angle of rotation is 32. I could also be in quadrant 2 and have that reference angle of 32 degrees. But then my angle of rotation, to figure that out, I will go 180 minus 32, which will give me 148 degrees as my angle of rotation. So that's how far I'm rotating from here to here would be 148 degrees. If I just know the reference angle, I could also be in quadrant 3, right? I could have 32 degrees here. To figure out the angle of rotation, I'm going to have to take 180 plus the 32 because I'm going past it. I'm more than that 180. So to get my angle of rotation, I go 180 plus 32. So that's going to be 212 degrees. And then the last one, I could also be in quadrant 4 with this reference angle of 32 degrees. And then I have to figure out, okay, what would my angle of rotation be to get there? So here I am 32 degrees less than 360. So to figure out that angle of rotation, 360 minus 32. So that will be 328 degrees. And that would be the possible angle of rotation. So if I'm just given a reference angle, there's 4 possible places within 0 degrees and 360 degrees that they could be in. I could continue, and you will in other courses, where maybe we're looking between 360 degrees and 720 degrees. And our reference angles, we would look in between like larger amounts of angles. Here we're just looking in between 0 and 360.